Steven Goodrich, are you here? Ivy Scrubs.
Speaking of Scrubs, today is the last day to submit your order for Scrubs. Make sure you fill out that Google Doc that we sent out like a million times so that we can order Scrubs for you. Alright, so check your email, check Facebook, it's all on there. Also, if you're not on the Facebook page, come talk to me and I'll make sure to add you on our DBS Facebook page.
Well, number 2. Whenever you guys come in to Kids for Kids, and sorry we didn't realize there wasn't one this week, but next one's going to be November 2nd. Make sure to check in with the board member who's there so we know that you're there and you get points.
Yeah.
Because that hasn't always happened so far.
You get their phone number every time, so just text them. I send the phone number in the confirmation email, so text them that morning if you don't see them and check in.
Cool. Covered. No questions? Good.
Hey, bonfire is gonna be this Sunday. We moved it from last Sunday to the Saturday, and then not enough people could go because of the OCHEM exam. It's gonna be this Sunday at 5. We're gonna be leaving around 4:15. It's a Facebook event. It's a lot of fun. Just, hanging out on the beach, like roasting hot dogs and making s'mores and things like that. So it's a ton of fun. We're gonna be like on the beach on Sunset. So yeah, you can just meet some new members and things like that. So sign up on Facebook and sign up on the Google Doc also so you can figure out rides.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely go to this one, guys, because it's really fun. Like, I've had a good time, and other people, like past DDFers have said this is like their favorite social, like one of them.
Yeah, it's a good time. We play frisbee, soccer, take lots of selfies. Sunset, hashtag. Anyway, so yeah.
I think that's just you.
It's a good time. That's just me. Alright. Also, with socials, keep in mind, check the calendar, okay? Because this is like your best bet for mapping out your semester and plans like that. So we have a social this Sunday, right? But we also have another one, that should be there. Anyways, the 19th. And we have another one next Friday on the 24th. So we're having a Halloween kind of event.
And Halloween's like the best holiday
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah, by far, that's probably my favorite social. Because it's just fun. We all hang out before. You come in costumes. Ron had an awesome Moon Man costume last year. That was great. It's just a good time. And then we all walk over to one of the dental fraternities and we just hang out with the dental students. They have a huge party. It's a really good time. So, yeah. Plus, the points. How does that work?
So if you wear a costume, it's going to be a wild card point. So yeah, if you come to the Halloween party, you get a social point, and then a costume is the wild card point that you can apply to anything. If you don't have enough points for like SSC or something like that, so you can apply to that. Also, costumes kind of make it the greatest holiday ever. So just saying, you're boring if you don't wear a costume.
Okay. And then the last thing about what's up.
For SSCs, if you guys sign up and like you intend on not coming, just like kind of shoot me an email or like a text, like not the morning of, but like kind of the day before, so I can put someone else in. There have been a couple people that have been canceling the day of, which kind of just throws everything off and puts like members to like do the whole thing by themselves, which isn't cool. So just kind of give me a heads up like the day before. That's it.
Yeah, and there was one more thing that I was gonna say about that. What was I gonna say?
Breakfast with board.
There's breakfast with board also. Oh, well, another thing. So if you guys, I know that you guys can get wildcard points for like Kicks for Kids and something like that. You guys also have to do rotations. Keep that in mind, okay? That's what Ashley organizes. We just organized today oral surgery clinic rotations and rotations on the general dentistry floor, which is on the second floor here. So you guys will have multiple opportunities, but just because you don't have scrubs yet doesn't mean that you can't go to Kicks for Kids and get a wildcard point for rotations or something like that. So there shouldn't be any excuses at the end of the year saying, oh, I didn't have scrubs, so that's why I didn't do rotations, and thus I don't have that. Alright, you guys can still do wildcard. So.
Also, there are no rejection emails for SSC. There's been kind of a confusion about that. There are no rejection emails. You'll only get like a confirmation email if you signed up.
Yeah. Good. And then lastly, I said this at the end last meeting, but I'm going to say it at the beginning so that everyone hears. If you want extra stuff to put on your application to make you a better candidate, to make you a better applicant, come talk to me. There are a bunch of opportunities that we don't advertise just because there's so many of them that we can put you guys in. Of course, sometimes you're going to have to pay for it, but I mean, pay for it is money, not whatever. And Yeah. So really, that one was funny. Okay. You need for it to be funny. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, come talk to me, and I'll hook you guys up. Yeah.
I think it might be a question for Nick, but do we have like an interviews forum? Like that's been already?
What do you mean?
Like a forum for students who like post about interviews that they've already had, like what questions they have and stuff like that.
We never had that. We thought about making it, though that would have fallen under like a kind of a blog post sort of deal.
Yeah.
If you yeah, I'll think about that. Maybe we can bring it up later, but at the moment, no.
Okay. And before I introduce our speaker today, Ryan Pineda just walked in the room. So if we could just give him a huge round of applause. Thank you for your years of dedication. This probably wouldn't be where it's at without you and Davina and everyone that's helped us out. So thank you.
She'll still be around.
Yes.
I'll still be around.
To help out.
Okay, great. So without further ado, do you guys have any more questions or anything like that? Yeah, what's up?
Okay, so we lost the Scrubs Party like sign-in sheet. So if you guys went, please say that you went. 'Cause otherwise you don't get points for it. So that's your call. So the sign-in sheet's over there, and just on your way out, just like that.
By the way, I remember everyone that comes to socials. Like everyone. I'm not kidding. I remember everyone. So don't say that you went if you didn't go. Okay. Alright, so I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. A lot of students at the dental school really enjoy him because he's so knowledgeable about the topic that he's going to be speaking out today, So Dr. Richard Wayne.
Okay, thanks everyone for inviting me to your meeting. I'm going to try to make this work right now, but we're having some AV issues with the volume here, so you're going to actually hear part of my presentation through the microphone, and hopefully everything will be okay with that. But let's see if we can get this to work. Remember, like the AV in this room. Is it working on both sides? There you go. Okay, something that works. Alright, so my name's Richard. I am currently the head of CAD/CAM dentistry in our school. What is CAD/CAM dentistry? That's what we're going to be talking about. Does anyone volunteer at a dental office which has a CAD/CAM unit, like a CEREC or something like that? Okay, so the people who know about this, sorry, what I'm talking about is kind of basic. Also, the people who have actually been part of the dental material class who has listened to my lecture, this is very similar, although not quite the same. For the rest of you, we're just going to be talking a bit about what we do in dentistry and how CAD/CAM can help us out, whether or not we're aware of it. Okay? So first things first, let's just talk about restorative dentistry. I'm not talking about all of the other specialties like the oral surgeons who extract teeth, break jaws, and realign them for you, the orthodontists who actually rearrange your teeth and make you smile better, or the periodontists who are in charge of trying to fix all your gums to make sure that your teeth don't fall out. We're just talking about the general stuff that the average dentist outside does, okay? And this happens to be what we call restorative dentistry. Now, the restorative dentistry pretty much falls into two sections, okay? Stuff that's called direct restoration, stuff that we call indirect restorations. So, what is each of these? Well, first things first, direct restorations are pretty much single appointment restorations, okay? Patient comes in, you see a cavity, what do? You remove the cavity. Of course, you know him well, then you do all that stuff, talk to him, make sure that he understands what you're doing. And then you go in, and now you have a big hole in the tooth, right? What we would call a cavity. Or you remove the disease, which was what we call caries. Now you have a cavity, what are you going to do next? We can fill it with one of two things. We could fill it with composite, which most of you know as the white filling, and then we could fill it with amalgam. silver filling versus a white filling. And of course, this is a picture of the white filling. Now, which would you rather have in your mouth? Most of you would probably say right now I want something white because no one wants to show any metal unless if you live in different parts of the States or different parts of Europe, which is a social norm to have something like that in your mouth. What would I have in my mouth if I had to have it? Probably the silver one because I am not afraid of the mercury scare. I know the silver one lasts longer, and I know I don't have to brush my teeth as hard to maintain the silver one. Okay, so I could be a little sloppy when I'm drunk and I can't. Brush in my mouth. The white one requires a lot more finesse on the part of the dentist, so it's actually a much more difficult one to put in. However, it's white. Patients like white, so you know you're going to go over all of this when you're in dental school about which one to put in. In my practice, 99% of the time, it's a silver filling. I don't get paid a lot for it, but hey, that's just what happens when you're doing direct restorations. So let's talk about what we would call the bread and butter of dentistry, where you make most of your money. Okay, and it comes in the form of an indirect restoration. Indirect restorations, by and large, come in three forms. There's gold ones, there's porcelain ones, and then now there's these new all-ceramic ones. New being a relatively new within the scope of dentistry. How long, how old is dentistry? Does anyone actually know? When did we start doing fillings, like modern day fillings? They were all started in the 1900s, 1909 or so. That's when we started using the silver fillings. Silver fillings were started then. The white fillings came in around the 60s or so. And so the gold crowns came, somewhere in the 40s or 30s or 40s, around that time. And then the porcelain fused to metal, okay, which is basically, you see the gold underneath. And what they did was they just put porcelain around those gold. Those came a little bit later, in the 60s as well. And now these are the newest to the people, the youngest kids on the block, if you want to call it that. The all ceramic crowns. These ones came relatively around, popularized in the 80s. Before that, there were some other ones, but they failed miserably in the mouth. Okay, so this is where you're going to be making most of your money. All right. So as you can see, this is a really important part of our job. Now, what does it take to make one of those? Okay, like I said, it takes multiple appointments. First thing you have to do is prepare the tooth. So everyone has seen a prep before, and this is just the impression. Okay, the impression in this case takes about 7 minutes to set. On the average one, you could get different ones. So basically, you have to hold this inside the patient's mouth for anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. Thankfully, we have assistants to help you hold it, so you could go do something else. But it takes 7 minutes, and then what do you have to do? You have to send this to the lab. This thing takes about an hour or two to make the stone cast. After you make the stone cast, you have to wax up the teeth and make your final mold. You can see how all the steps of making this wax up. Experienced lab takes about 15-20 minutes. Dental students take about 4 to 6 hours. But those are just things that you have to think about. Okay? And then added on to that, you have to flip this and turn it into gold. So what we do is we attach a piece of plastic to it. We invest it inside a mold. And then pretty much with this really high-tech thing, which is a centrifuge, the things that we see from the 1940s, you shoot in the gold, okay? So you melt the gold, you let go of the spring, and then the gold gets shot in just through a centrifugal force, right? Things that they've been doing since probably the 17th century. So now you get this piece of gold crown, all right? How long does all of this process take? It takes about a day. Sometimes a good experienced lab tech can get it done within 6 hours. Alright? So, now that's cool. If you want the porcelain, what do you have to do? You have to use your hand to pick up the porcelain pieces and apply it onto this crown. Okay? Like stacking sandcastle. Alright? So you have to do all of that bit by bit to create one crown. As you can see over here, you can see the parts of the crown as it's being built up by lab techs. see, this is a very labor intensive. Most labs take about a week to 2 weeks to turn over one crown to you. What do you do during the meantime? You create what's known as a provisional, or a temporary restoration. Okay? So most of you, I don't know if you can tell, this tooth is a temporary right here. It's not showing up. This guy right here, that's a temporary. For all of you on this side, that one's the temporary. After staring at this long enough, you become, sort of demented like all of us dentists, and you can tell when there's a tooth that's slightly discolored, slightly off. It's stuff that we notice when we're dentists that no one else would notice. So, in the public's eye, this top tooth looks just fine. In our eye, this top tooth is the wrong color, it's the wrong shape. Okay? But will it work for the 2 weeks that we have to wait for the final restoration? Sure. And of course, you can do all sorts of funny things with the temporaries as long as it fits the jaw and it makes sure that there's no issues with the patient's bite. I don't recommend any of these. If you show me one of these as your project, I will fail you for obvious reasons. But they are there. They can be done. Okay? So, the patient has to wear this provisional restoration. What's the difference between a temporary restoration and provisional restoration? It's about $200. Okay? Outside people call things temporary. We call it provisional. It sounds more professional. Alright. So, with that, of course, I couldn't let all my newfound skills as a dentist, be thrown to waste. So, we create all sorts of jewelry while we're at it since we know how to play with gold. But the point is, each of these things take days to manufacture. Alright. So, this is just something about the public and how they feel about a dentist. Okay. Let's see if I can get this to work. Let me get the volume up. Can you actually hear that or not really? Okay. Sorry if there's a lot of feedback. Sorry, it's not working that well.
I'm just now getting the feeling back in my elbow. And so he puts on a temporary. He says this will be a 2-part deal. He said I have to put on a temporary thing. So they put all of that goo in your mouth, and you bite down, and then the goo hardens, and then they pry your mouth open, and then they got a thing, and they put a temporary in there. And he says, you come back in 2 weeks, I'll put in the permanent. And I said, oh, well, gee, I don't know. How do I know? Well, he said, no, 2 weeks will be just fine, and we'll see you then. So then I have to leave, and then today, not even 24 hours later, the damn thing comes out. Never comes out. Yeah. So I have like a hole in the side of my mouth the size of an above-ground pool. And every now and then I can't help pretty much tell you. Your tongue goes, and I'm just now waiting for the nerve pain to return. It's that electric. It's sensitive to heat, it's sensitive to cold, and I get that, and hey, I'm supposed to wait 2 weeks? Modern dentistry has been around for thousands of years. Modern dentistry. And look at all of the wonderful medical advancements we've made. Why can't they do it in one simple procedure? Why do I have to wait 2 weeks? Why do I have to walk around with some spare part in my mouth that I don't really want? And it doesn't really work. It didn't even make it through lunch. The damn thing didn't even make it through lunch, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't even eat lunch. Should I take the little sarcasm?
Okay, sadly, that's something that happens rather often. When a patient comes in, we make the crown, we make the provisional, and for some reason or another, it falls off or it just cracks in half because they didn't listen to you and they tried chewing a carrot or a lemon. Okay? So you can see that there are certain things that the public wants. Of course, everyone wants things to be done no one really likes that. And of course, no one likes this goop. What is this goop? The impression material. Okay. You know, you're going to be doing this to each other when you get into dentistry, and I can tell you this is not a lot of fun to do. Alright? Sticking all that material into someone's mouth, having it run down their throat, they're not able to breathe, you can see it goes all over the place. If this thing touches your clothes, it's pretty much stuck on your clothes. Alright? You won't be able to get rid of it. So, and of course when you remove it, it's actually quite painful. Okay, if you don't remove it properly. So no one really likes that. So let's talk about CAD/CAM dentistry. Why I'm here, why we're trying to change things with it. To begin with, unfortunately, I have to go over just a very small amount of background information, talking about what CAD/CAM even stands for. First thing it stands for, the CAD part is computer-aided design, okay, and computer-aided manufacture. So all of you engineers out there, just bear with me a bit. I know it's a little basic, but I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page here. So first things first, the CAD part. Basically, you design in 3 dimensions on a computer. That's it. Okay? You find out how to do the design. These designs in 3D are all vectors, meaning it's all made of lines and triangles and squares and everything. Something that the computer can compute. Okay? And of course, CAD is a very simple thing that can go from a very it's shaped like an instrument all the way up to your entire house. You can design cars, you can design motorcycles, you can design anything like that. Okay? So let's talk about the second half of it, the CAM part. We call it computer-aided manufacturing. It falls under 2 parts now. The first one is machining. And what's machining? It's basically taking a burr, taking a big piece of metal, okay, and then using these burrs, lasers, water, whatever it is, to carve out areas. So all of you who have iPhones, all of you who have MacBooks, all of those are actually manufactured in China, and what they use is they use water jet to remove the excess parts of a big solid chunk of aluminum to create the shape of your case for your iPhone. Okay, so that's the manufacturing part. And for those who actually know about these, the second half is what we call rapid prototyping. Okay, so instead of taking a big block, carving it down to form what we want, you can understand there's a lot of wasted material. Nowadays, they can actually take, in this case, you can see a big vat of liquid, and this is similar to the white filling that we have. They take lasers, and then they spot focus, which causes solidification in certain areas, and they could actually print out the 3D material. Okay. And similar, you could actually do, like, instead of using a vat of liquid, you could actually have a nozzle, just like an inkjet printer, and instead of squirting out ink, you're squirting out plastic. And the plastic just moves around and creates the entire shape. This is what we call rapid prototyping. Sadly, we're not using this a lot in dentistry just yet. We create skulls for the oral surgeons to look at. We create stents for implant surgery, but we're not using it for restorative dentistry. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew there was such a thing. Okay. So, how do we use this? Well, traditional sense, we use it for the labs. The labs, as you can see, can manufacture all of our crowns, like the porcelain fused to metal crowns, in a big block of titanium. They could do it in a big block of, this one's zirconia and aluminum. Okay, so these are just different materials to create all ceramic crowns. Now, let's talk more about what we can do in our office, because that's what we're here for. We're trying to find ways to make our life easier in the office. So, the first ones that I'd like to introduce are the CEREC and the E4D. CEREC was developed around the 1985 or so, and what they do is they're the first ones who can make chairside restorations. Okay, and what does that mean? They could scan it. Okay, so you can see the computer right here. You're going to see me lug around this computer a lot. There's this piece that goes into the mouth, and it actually scans the surface of the tooth. It's just like sonar. You know how sonar works in the deep sea? You could shoot the sonar into the ocean floor. It bounces back, telling you how deep everything is. Well, think of this camera like a sonar, but it takes it in much higher resolution in a very small area. So it maps out in 3 dimensions the tooth structure with the light, and then I'll just show you what it looks like. This is the process for it. So instead of using the goop to take an imprint of the jaw, you spray it. That just helps the camera see. In this case, what they do is they start with the buccal bite, which is basically the teeth as they are biting. That way they know how high to build the crown. And after they do the buccal bite, you can see now they're actually scanning the occlusal surface, okay, the top part of the tooth. And with each scan, you can see that a model is being formed at the side, and that's a 3-dimensional model. That's not a 2-dimensional one, that's a 3-dimensional one. Okay? So right away, instead of waiting 7 minutes for some impression material to set, you can actually just take pictures with it. If you know what you're doing, this thing takes about 2 minutes to do. Okay? So just to compare the two of them, this one, this impression is basically like this part where you're taking a digital impression, and instead of pouring up the stone, everything is actually designed on the computer. Instead of spending time creating wax mold of the way you want the tooth to be done, you can simply do things like Photoshop on the tooth surface to create the size and the dimension of the tooth. Okay. So as you can see, this cuts down the time significantly, after which we have to have the second half of it. Okay, what's the second half? Some way of creating the tooth surface. In this case, what they do is you can see they're taking a big block of a material, and we have 2 burrs, 2 instruments that go around it and create the actual form of the tooth. Alright, so in a practice for something like this, if you know exactly what you're doing from start to finish, depending on the material, it could be as little as 20 minutes, as much as an hour. Okay, the hour is because you have to put it back into the oven to reshape or reglaze or something, steam the tube if you want to do that. But you can make something in 20 minutes and then you can have it for the patient. Okay. So that's one of them. That's the one that we use the most on our clinic. The second one that we're using is, you know, just like there's a, when you say there's Windows, someone's going to say there's a Mac OS that you can use. You have an iPhone, there's an Android. If you have a CEREC, this is the E4D, same product, similar product, it's a competing one. Does exactly the same thing, and it mills out the same block for you. Okay. So this is just to show you that there is development in this. As you can see now, instead of taking picture by picture and using a powder, we don't have this machine yet, but you can actually just move your the head of the instrument over the surface, and like a video camera, it does it, and of course both companies have something similar. So this is something we don't have yet, but this is something that we'd like to get, since it looks a lot faster than the other two. Okay? So anyone have questions on making direct restorations? Not yet? Okay, so, oh, those are indirect. We could cement them directly. So, what can this CAD-CAM do for us? Well, it always depends on who asks, okay? It could make these types of restorations, like the crowns that we were looking at. It could make smaller restorations. It could make everything out of the plastic filling material, or it can make it out of the porcelain filling material. Okay? And it could do more than one tooth at a time. It's quite important when your patient has a bunch of fillings that need replacement. This one will do it rather quickly, all of them at the same time. Okay? What can't it do? Obviously, this is just a computer taking an imprint. Okay? It doesn't mean that you can become sloppy with your work. You have to make sure that you take care of every single step properly. And the hammer and nail effect, if anyone wants to know, these machines cost $130,000. Okay? When a dentist spends $130,000 on it, they want to play with their toy as much as possible. So they start using it when it's not supposed to be used. They start using it for just about everything out there. And, you know, that's a problem. You buy a hammer, everything becomes a nail, and you just want to use it. These are things that we always have to educate the students that, you know, this thing doesn't work for every single situation. It works for many situations, but not all. Alright. So, like you can see, this is just patient having bad white fillings. They come in, we remove all the decay, all the bad fillings, and in the same appointment, probably 2 hours later, they could have all of their teeth fixed. Okay, much faster than waiting 2 weeks to get their crown back. That we could definitely estimate. And this is another one that we did in the school. You can see there's a silver filling that needed removal, and then we got it back to them within the same appointment. Because this is done by a student, it took about 3 hours, but in the regular practice setting, you can get this done within 1 hour. Okay? Now, anyone have any questions about stuff that you can do? Yes?
So why does it take a demo student longer? Because like, I mean, I understand that, you know, technique and stuff like that, but what varies like for the time differences?
The main reason it takes a dental student longer is because they have to wait for the faculty to make sure that they're doing everything properly. Okay, so they do a certain step, they have to go and ask the faculty to come, check it, make sure they didn't do anything wrong, and because the faculty is watching over 8 other students at the same time, sometimes it just takes a while. Like, yes. We could do full crowns, we could do veneers, we could do anything aesthetic work on the front teeth, so all of that is possible. We're just trying to figure out what the limit is, and today we actually cemented stuff that we made ourselves that would have costed a lot of money for the lab tech. So it's actually quite a bit of fun. On the flip side, in a busy practice, you probably won't have time to play around with it. Like in the school situation, we could definitely mess around with it.
And also, how long is what's the durability of the teeth or whatever that is?
That depends on the material. It's pretty much the same for everything. Our studies are 5 to 10 years. You have to keep in mind the crowns, the porcelain fused to metal, the gold ones, we have years of data. When I say years, we're talking about 40 years of data. Okay. The materials that you're looking at right now, one of them came out 3 years ago. Another one came out 2005. Those are the 2 that we're using. And it's pretty strange for a school to be using stuff that hasn't been tested or proven out. But we just feel so strongly about it that we think it's going to work. It's going to last. So that's a good question. Unfortunately, we can't really answer that because we don't have the data to tell. Okay. So that's the fun part of CAD/CAM, where the restorative dentist gets to do things very quickly, gets to do things reasonably well, and the only catch is, of course, you design everything yourself, so you have to spend a bit of time to sit there and make sure it looks good. Also, California allows the some of the assistants to do the impressions for you, but not all. So you have to keep that in mind. Each state uses it differently. So let's talk about just taking a digital impression. These machines were designed just to take an imprint of the jaw. Okay. So this one from the iTero, all it does is it takes pictures and then you get a 3D model. Same thing with the Lava COS. You can see this one's kind of cooler because instead of taking picture by picture, this thing takes a video, and from the video, it'll create a 3-dimensional object. You can see that they just move this head around over the teeth, and then from there, you get a nice 3-dimensional object. Of course, this 3-dimensional object exists in the computer. What can you do with it? Well, let's talk about that right now. The information can be sent, first of all, to a lab, which will create the models for you. How do they create these models? Just like the rapid prototyping I was telling you about. The white model is made by a big mill that mills it down. The blue models are made by the injection molding, where they create the models in 3D. Those are the technologies that are being used in CAD/CAM. But you know, using that machine just to get a model isn't as exciting as making a restoration by second thing we can do with it is everyone knows about Invisalign here, right? Invisalign is completely done by CAD/CAM. Okay, so even if your dentist gets an imprint of your jaw and sends it to the office, the Invisalign office, what they do is they scan it. So if you could scan it inside your own office, why would you create, spend money to create a stone cast to send over there just to have them convert it back into a digital file? So that's why a lot of the orthodontists use these intraoral digital impression machines. And the last thing you could do is you could just take the data, send it to the lab. The lab can create the crowns out of these big blocks. And of course, you've seen these already. These are all data that's done by CAD/CAM. The interesting thing is the lab may not be telling you that they're using CAD/CAM on your crown because there's a cost difference. Making everything by hand is like buying a Rolls Royce versus buying a BMW. One is an assembly line production. The other one, some guy actually screws in every nut and bolt in there. One costs 3 times more than the other. Is it actually a better driving machine? Not necessarily, but you can tell that there is a difference. Okay. So just real quick, there are so many materials out there. We only use the 2 that we feel last the longest in the mouth. Once you're a dentist, you can use whatever material you feel comfortable with. But just to give you an idea, there is all of these materials that you can deal with. Okay. So that's just the machines. That's what we're doing in our school. And you're welcome to drop by and see our billing machine as it's running. It's very loud, but it's kind of cool to see. If anyone wants to see it, we're just directly above us in the big glass room. It sort of looks like a Apple store. It's all white and very cool. Okay? So, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
So dental students start using this their second year, right?
Yes, at the end of their first year, they have a course with me where I teach them how to do these types of preparation design. It's completely different from a full crown preparation. And then we teach them how to use the computers to design and fabricate restorations. And right now I'm doing most of the fabrication with the other faculty, but starting probably next year, the students are going to be doing all of their own work. So it's just to prepare everyone for the future because nowadays there are people out there, dentists out there, when they hire, they ask, do you know how to use these CAD/CAM machines? And if you can say, yeah, our school trains us with them, then you're ahead of all the other students, all the other graduates. Any other questions? Yeah.
How many do you have?
We have 20 of the Stark machines and we have 3 mills. But in reality, we're only using 1 or 2 at any given time. The rest of them are just there for me to teach the students. Like probably for a month or so we use all 20, but the rest of the time it's only 2 or 3. Any other questions? Yes, BU has something like 40 of them, but I don't know if they have a single person who knows how to run it. There is a difference. Okay. Just knowing how many units a school has doesn't guarantee that they'll be able to use it. Okay. Like UOP, I know the person who runs that one. I think they also have 10, but they have 10 of the older generation ones, and they're hardly using it at all. So just going to a school when you interview and asking them if they have a CAD/CAM is one thing. Going to them and asking them how many restorations they make a week is a different thing. And safely we make about anywhere from 20 to 50 a week. So the students are the ones who benefit from it.
How do you grade?
Sorry?
Do you just grade based on how well they use the machine?
That is actually going to be part of it because we have something called accreditation. You want to go into a fully accredited school and they require us to grade on every step, so we're still trying to figure out the logistics of how to grade the student. Most of the time, if you don't stick it the wrong way into the patient's mouth or you don't drop the $10,000 sensor, then probably you'll pass. Any other questions?
returning members, you have to come to one conference round one semester. So you can come to this one, or you can come to the next one, or you can come to both also. So this one, the one this semester is November 15th, that's a Saturday. So we're not having it on Friday.
Is that in the middle of finals?
No, final day December. November 15th, you're good. You're good.
Thank you.
And then, yeah. So next time we're going to be announcing member of the month for September and October. So the Dean of Admissions does know who member of the month is. They keep that like in their files. So it would be really good for you guys to get member of the month. So just be active. The best members are the ones who not only come to stuff, but also talk to us. Because, I mean, if we have no idea who you are and what your name is, then chances of you know, getting known by admissions is slim to none. So yeah, get to know us and stuff like that. And make sure you come to the socials and stuff. It's just a really good time.
Guys,
Oh.
we're here for you overall, so like just shoot us an email. Feel free to like come talk to us anytime. Like we love you guys.
Yeah. Much love. Much love. Right. Okay, so I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. Can you turn off the
Yep.